Now that we have achieved anamorphics on a budget, it's time we start aiming for things we didn't even think possible. And to some, I'm sure, things we didn't even think necessary. Today, we're going to be looking at Sirui's first autofocus anamorphic lens for full-frame cameras. As anything in life, there are several pros and a number of cons. In this video, I'll do my best to outline them so you too can have an opinion on the subject. I know I started out from a place of, why the heck would I need an autofocus anamorphic? But I realized I was being judgy, so I took it for a spin. Let's get this out of the way first. Autofocus requires electronic connectors, so the lens and camera can talk to each other. This means no more interchangeable mounts and no more PL mounts. Performance will also be dependent on your camera's autofocus capabilities, and that can vary from brand to brand. For this review, I'm using a Sony FX3, thanks Jeff, and the lens has an E-mount. This is a 40mm T1.8 1.33 times anamorphic lens for full-frame sensors, with an image circle of 37mm. And before you twist your nose because you heard 1.33, go back to the test footage and notice how oval bokeh looks. To me, they look a bit more squishy than they should, and I have a feeling that Sirui is using some anamorphic glass to enhance the ovals and then adjusting the squeeze factor back down to 1.33 times to deliver the best results on 16:9 sensors, such as the ones found in most Sony cameras. As I am tired of demonstrating, 1.33 times squeeze on a 16:9 capture turns to 2.37 to 1 aspect ratio, and you will only need to crop a tiny bit of the top and the bottom for true cinemascope delivery, meaning 2.39 to 1. The lens weighs 615 grams or 1.35 pounds, which isn't lighter than a Saturn lens, but it is lighter than any of the Blazar's lenses. It features 77mm filter threads as well as an 80mm front diameter for filters and matte boxes. All focusing is internal, and both iris and focus rings feature gears for motors. On one side, you will find a switch to toggle between a clicked and clickless iris, and although this is a very electronic lens, this is a mechanical switch. By turning it to on, the iris rings clicks every third of a stop, and you can go all the way to the A setting, meaning auto aperture, and letting the camera take over exposure. I found the feeling on this ring pretty good on both clicked and clickless settings. Having the ability to toggle the click on and off actually gave me some peace of mind, since I usually struggle by bumping the iris ring and have it change values without me noticing it while filming. So now once I find the value that I want clicklessly, I'll turn on the clicks, and that makes it much harder to bump. The iris is now controlled electronically, and turning the ring while the camera is off will not change the position of the blades. And you can spot the small delay between adjusting the ring value and the iris change. On the other side of the lens, we have an AFL button, autofocus lock, and an AF/MF switch. You will also notice that the focus ring has no markings, it can spin infinitely, and won't move a thing while the camera is powered off. When in autofocus setting, you always have the ability to override the camera's focusing by turning the ring. I found the responsiveness of it pretty satisfying, although I do have some irks about the focus-by-wire lenses and the repeatability of moves. In fact, I am struggling to see the point of having a ring that is geared for a motor when the motor is never going to find the infinity and minimum focus hard stops. Speaking of minimum focus, this one comes down to 0.6 meters or just short of 2 feet. This lens is on Indiegogo and will sell for $650. Although using a crowdfunding platform, the lens starts shipping now in early December, so check the link in the description for the full campaign. After this stage, the lens will retail for $800. I found the results at T1.8 pretty tough. There's a lot of softness, like a haze, and it's very hard to judge when something is as sharp as it gets. Things improve at T2.8, and this is the minimum aperture I'd recommend using. My best performance was at T4, where I could clearly see what was in focus, and I still had a lot of out of focus areas on the background while framing a medium shot. The flares are classic blue and a bit oversaturated, but you can easily pick and adjust their color in post. Although we're talking about more or less of a wide angle on full frame, this 40mm does not display intense distortion. We can greatly attribute it to the lesser squeeze factor. In terms of breathing, we have a bit of an expansion and contraction, neither terrible nor great, just okay. Sadly, I'm not going to be talking about the autofocus performance here, as Sirui is still updating the firmware prior to the beginning of shipping. My copy had its good and bad moments, and I feel it's unhelpful to put out an opinion on an unfinished aspect of this piece of equipment. So stay tuned for when they update the autofocus. I did have fun with this lens. I must say I faced more challenges dealing with the camera itself than the lens, and it would be awesome to have this in L mount. Alas, the initial release only comes in E, Z, X, and micro four thirds. There are things that I like here, such as the initial integration of electronics into consumer anamorphics, and where that road leads, allowing pretty much anyone to play with scopes. I also like how even though this is 1.33 times, we have stronger ovals. The lens is light enough, and I dig the on and off switch for the clicked aperture. Even though you can get to T1.8, I feel the faster stop is to be used only if you are out of light, and it's better to have hazy results than not to get the shot. I also like that we get an improvement from it for good results at T2.8. On the cinema aspect of it, I feel this is a confused lens. For example, the addition of the electronics and their consequences, such as the infinity spin focus ring or the iris by wire, void the point of using motors on the rings, so you could have a lighter lens without the gears and not hurt usability. My main criticism here is we have a product that doesn't really tell us what to expect next. Do I expect more autofocus lenses? Yes. But will they have the same squeeze factor as this one and form a set? I don't know. Am I better off buying them as they come out, or is this going to be a solo test and we'll see something with a stronger squeeze next? It is hard to tell without a roadmap. At this point, I think everyone is hedging their bets on what is the best budget anamorphic, and deciding if it's better to buy something now or wait a few more months. I believe something that would help filmmakers is a clear roadmap of products, much like Canon and other brands do, with estimated release times and how each product fits in the lineup. Essentially, how the products support or differ from each other. I also get that keeping the mystery drives up the anxiety, and that usually makes people spend money on a whim rather than thoughtfully. So I can understand a company keeping everyone in the dark. I just don't like it. I'm saying this in a Sirui video, but I just as easily say it in a video about any other recent anamorphic announcement. Now back to the 40mm. How much would you use autofocus anamorphics? Is this the solution for the people who want to film weddings in widescreen, but also have to do it solo? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one. Out.